Not everybody likes him. He's been accused, I think, on the BBC of being a snake oil salesman with his wicked ways with video games and so on. However, he also was voted and won the 2008 Achievement Award at the Handheld Learning Awards, which was a superb event, and we're very pleased that Derek Robertson won that award. So Derek Robertson, Learning and Teaching Scotland.
Okay, good morning everybody. Derek Robertson from Learning and Teaching Scotland, as Graham said. I'm going to talk to you about what we've been doing with games and kind of what our take on games-based learning is. So what's the story with games? The constellarium continues. For those of you who haven't met me before, I got into video games and computer games because of something that happened in my classroom. The last day of term at Christmas in 1997, kids get to bring in toys, so the usual suspects were in. Buckaroo was in, Kerplunk, if you remember Kerplunk, Mousetrap, I loved it. I was playing Rebound was another one, but somebody brought the Super Nintendo. And they just said, Mr. Robertson, can we put this on, please? And I said, well, what is it? Because I wasn't a gamer. Forgive me. And it's a Super Nintendo. We need the television. So we wheeled in the beast. Remember the huge televisions on the trolleys? Wheeled that in, and up appeared this game that involved the manipulation of a range of 2D shapes, with different sides, different colours, patterns, sequences, and I had no idea what was happening. But two boys were playing this game, and I was watching them, and they were observing, they were hypothesising, they were testing, evaluating, they were doing all the things that we were trying to address in the maths 5 to 14 problem-solving aspect of our curriculum. But what was happening was these boys were getting great success. Fantastic success. They were doing all these things. But they were in my bottom group for mathematics. And when it came to their experience in my class with mathematics, and problem solving in particular, they didn't get very much success at all. In fact, the toys would be thrown out the pram, they didn't persevere, they didn't exhibit any of the skills that I was observing in the games context. And it made me think, why is it they're so competent and able in this context, but not showing it in what I'm offering them with the traditional curricular view of maths? So it made me think about the game, the potential of the game, and as a result, this is what we've been doing. Now, let's look at somebody playing a game. Have a look at him. Got a question for you. I mean, look at the way he's engaged with that. Look at his face. Look at his body posture. I've got a question. Do you believe he's really playing a PS3 game? Has anybody played a PS3 game? You know, let's have a look again. Look at that. Now, let's look at this. This was mentioned earlier, the advert that was out recently, the campaign. Risking early death. Just do nothing. When I saw this, I'd just been out that day with my wee girls, and we'd been away bird watching. We'd been to visit their granny. I was out playing football with Amy in the afternoon with her net, just 5. They'd been out playing with their friends, and at 4 o'clock they came in for their tea, and they sat down and played Lego Batman for an hour. And I think that's good. Everything in moderation. What's wrong with that? And it made me think, what's that young lad been doing so far today? Is that the only thing he's been doing? If it is, then I think I may have a problem with that. But I think things in moderation. Particularly when you think about the kind of message that's coming out of what appears to be a government agency there, and wheeling out this stereotypical view and fanning the flames of folk devils and moral panics. But if you look at the Byron report, it refers to the educational, social and entertainment benefits that the internet and video games technologies clearly offer. And Sean Woodward, Government Minister, said recently the games industry fulfills and plays an important role in our society, and a very constructive role in the lives of many young people, as well as middle-aged people like myself. I'm going back to it again, folks, for a reason. You can just feel the director, out of shot, speaking to him. Look listless, look unhappy, because he's looking away from the game as well. He is not playing a video game. And I had experience of a similar thing recently. BBC Newsround got wind of what we've been doing in Scotland with Dr. Kawashima's brain training, the research that we've done recently. And up they came to Scotland to do their story. And they had a storyline. And what they wanted the children to do was to get their pencils and paper out and they wanted them to look glum. They said to the children, look glum. And I was there at the time with Anna Rosfall, my colleague from Aberdeenshire, and the two of us intervened to say, why? And we don't want you to ask them to look glum. They're not going to look glum when they're doing maths with pencil and paper. We don't want that to be the message. That is not the message. And so they didn't look glum, although I think the girls were trying their best to get into role, you know, and so in some ways they did look glum. But it was this kind of construction of how they want. If I can just get to the internet, let me see now what's happened to you. Oh, okay. I had to restart my machine. Bear with me, folks. Are you going to? Are you? Yes, you are. The BBC Newsround article actually turned out to be quite positive. But what they were discussing was, and this came out of a newspaper article, they were talking about the cost of these devices. They were talking about £3,000 for a school to invest in these technologies. Should this not be better spent on paper and pencils? Well, my take was that if that's the argument now, if it's about cost, does that mean we've won the argument about the rationale for games-based learning? Have we won the debate about the place and validity of games in the classroom? Have we shifted the discourse enough that this is now a valid approach? I think maybe we have. I was quite glad that they went down the attack about money. So, if I can go back to my presentation. Recently, there's been a bit of flack, because we've had a lot of good press, a lot of very good press, but this was in the Scotsman, and this was the article that got the BBC Newsround interested. This was the concern about schools wasting valuable resources on games consoles. And on the actual website for the newspaper article, there was a real kind of hate-filled thread of discussion. Here's a couple of the comments. A Nintendo DS system to improve your child's education. What a load of nonsense. Just shows you how destitute in ideas some of these so-called educationalists have become. But there was an even better one. What a load of tripe. So the kids leave school not being able to read and write, but they can use a PlayStation. Then this one really burnt me, look. Which moron thought that one up? Well, that'll be me then. You know, so I just think, how does such a pessimistic outlook help take learners forward? That's such pessimism. And for me, shouldn't children's learning experiences be an optimistic one? Optimism, for me, is what children need to possess. They need to believe in themselves. They need, and I'm not trying to sing a Whitney Houston song here, I promise you I won't, but, you know, they need to believe in themselves. Optimism, for me, is what we need to give children, amongst many other things, but that, for me, is at the heart of it. Did you know that they actually found the pessimism gene recently? But I wouldn't bet on them finding a cure for it. Okay? That was very poor. I'll carry on. I think there's an optimistic organisation in Scotland. Here I am. I'm employed by them, by the way. Learning and Teaching Scotland. They took a kind of chance with games-based learning a couple of years back. And what informed that was this idea of what James Paul Gee talks about, or what he talked about in relation to semiotic domains. If we try to understand the domain of the school and understand its meaning and the hidden curriculum that's in the school as well. Teachers are the ones with status, with experience, with mastery, with expertise. They know about teaching and learning. They know about grouping. They know about discipline. They know about timetabling. They know all these things. But the child, in some ways, the pupil, is a visitor into that domain. They've got some status, but they're not really the masters and the ones with the status and the experience and expertise. However, if you take something like the games domain, in which children and games players and young people have got status and mastery and experience and expertise, and if we can somehow get those two domains to intersect, we believe that in that intersection, in that space, that's the space that we're inhabiting, and that's where we can do good things. So what we did with this optimism was we created the Consolarium, the Scottish Centre for Games and Learning. And it's about to move to the University of Aberdeen. It's a Centre for Computer Games Excellence. And the idea is that we'll have this space and it will continue to do what we do. It offers a space where education managers can come along, engage with the debates about games, they can try games, they can see how they're getting on with it. You know, begin to just see that games are not necessarily about Pac-Man or Space Invaders or more negative things. So the Consolarium has become quite a fixture in the kind of Scottish educational landscape. We did some research recently. I've talked about this quite a lot, so I'm not going to go into this in great detail, folks. Dr. Kawashima's brain training, it was recently published in the British Journal of Educational Technology, just last week, I think. So great for us to have that published work out there to continue to contribute to the kind of growing articulation about how games can impact on learning. We are writing up our extended study at the moment, which this was a report about one class that used it against classes that weren't. But we did a randomised control trial with 16 classes with the Nintendo and 16 control groups. And so that will be coming. A quick video just to remind you folks about the impact of this. These are some of the boys who were involved in the first activity. And I asked them, do you think the games help? Let's listen to what they've got to say.
Well, because it's made me smarter and I could do a lot more. I could do my work faster now when I'm like doing sums.
You think so? Do you really feel that? Okay. What do you think?
Well, I got two things. I think it's made me better at doing my sums and quicker, and I thought it was a good idea to bring the Nintendos.
You did think it was a good idea? Yeah. Why do you think it was a good idea?
Because, well, people weren't that good at the sums, right, and it's helped everyone. From last time when we got the test, we weren't that good at, and this time we've got like 7 minutes and 5 minutes and stuff.
What do you think's done that? Do you think the game's helped?
Yeah.
Why? How has it helped?
Because we're smarter.
Did you hear that? Because we are smarter. A primary 5 boy telling me that he's smarter. Teacher didn't tell him that. It was intrinsic. He feels it himself. He can see it. He believes it. He knows he's smarter. He's much faster at his times 20. He can do all the puzzles really well. He's got his brain age down. He's transferred this into his classroom practice when it comes to his normal maths work. They know they've gotten smarter. Now, what we've done in Scotland, it's now a cool aspiration for school children to be good at mental maths. Yes. I think that's fantastic. Look at this character here. That day up in Fraserburgh, actually my ego got shattered this day. I thought I was good at times 20 on the Nintendo DS, Dr. Kawashima. I can do it in 10 seconds. And the teacher said, we've got a boy in primary 6 can do it in 9. And I said, what? I must meet this young man. Bring him to me. So they went and got him. And here he is. Here, look at this. Look, he's primary 6. He's 10 or 11 years old.
From Fraserburgh, South Park, and apparently he's red hot at times 20. On you go.
Who's the daddy?
That's the fastest I've seen any.
Now, he was disappointed. He got 13 seconds. But look at his profile. 9 seconds. Has anybody done 9 seconds? No. Isn't that good? Look at him. You know, and apparently, not somebody that's a high flyer, not somebody that's overachieving, somebody that's maybe being seen as not performing. Look what he can do. What did the parents think about games-based learning, folks? I wanted to share this with you as well. We did Nintendogs, and there was a group of parents who didn't like this idea of putting games in the primary 2 classroom. What place do they have in the class? My child should be reading and writing and doing arithmetic. What on earth are they doing with that? If you saw Anna Roswell's presentation yesterday, you'll see just exactly what they did, and I'm going to refer to it as well. But they tried to get the project stopped, but the teacher and the head teacher managed to convince them that let us trust us, let us use this, and let's see where it goes. And at the end, the transformation was quite incredible. Let's hear what they've got to say. Whoops. Ha 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 ha. I didn't want that to happen. Too clumsy.
Well, his enthusiasm is overwhelming. Like, he's really, really enjoyed it. I think from a learning point of view, there's been so many factors. They've learned to share. They've worked on their communication. They've had to communicate with each other about their progress. They've had to look after their dogs, and they've had to earn points, you know, in order to gain extra benefits, you know, for their pets. They've been encouraged to write about it. It's helped with their numbers because they have to add up how many points they've got. So I think the benefits have been very, very good. I really do.
Anybody else? What they've seen with the children? What do you think? How do you think it's helped?
I would agree with what you said there. Dylan doesn't concentrate very well and for a long space of time, and he's been really enthusiastic about this talking about it all the time, discussing things at home. I mean, kids often come home, what have you done today? Nothing. But it's been Nintendo dogs today, I've got another dog, it's called this, we did this today, we've got toys. Oh, I would definitely agree with what you said.
We had parents who could not believe the transformation in attitude to school and to learning for some of their children. They were delighted. One family were so delighted, they gave £1,000 to the school to buy more Nintendo DS because I had to take them away because I've got a small number of them that I put into schools and try ideas. The parents, we need to bring parents on board. A lot of this is about taking people with us, informing them about what we're trying to do, helping them understand the rationale and the impact, the positive impact that they can have. Scotland's got game. Well, I think it has. You know, the Constellium project began in August 2006, and we had initially 7 early adopter authorities who came on board to try these, what were seen as maverick left-field ideas, like get a guitar hero in the class. I mean, who'd have thought of putting a guitar hero in the class? But we did. Now we're working with, are about to work with, almost 30 of the 32 local authorities in Scotland. And we have such a spread that my position was a secondment. It was made permanent, and I've just appointed Kim Applin, who is my development officer, who's working with me to try and support the demand from schools in Scotland for games-based learning advice and support. We've got literally hundreds of teachers doing this. This isn't happening in a handful of places. This is happening. There's a groundswell of it in Scotland, with thousands of pupils involved. Games consoles. For some reason, and LTS made an offer to local authorities that they could broker a deal to let them buy Nintendo DS. From my point of view, I would rather we didn't align ourselves with a particular commercial company. I'd like to remain as kind of independent as possible, like platform agnostic in a way. But look what the schools did. Within 3 weeks, they sold 2,300 of them to schools. We're working with TEIs, Teacher Education Institutes, so that students that are coming up to become teachers get this, so they know about it, that they're seeing it, this is something you can do. Don't be frightened. It's not a maverick, unjustifiable desire or aspiration to use these resources. Have a go. Justify it. If it doesn't work, work out why it didn't work and learn from it. It now permeates Curriculum for Excellence. It's explicitly mentioned in terms of game design and in terms of children's experiences with educational technologies. So in Scotland, we've really tried to make sure that it's part of, and an established part of, children's experiences. And I don't think it's seen as a maverick idea anymore. People are looking at this seriously. This email, have a look at it, folks, and I'll tell you the context for it. It's happening now without us in Scotland. Midlothian Council are one of the councils that I haven't managed to get into yet. And I met Tommy Lawson from Midlothian at an event last week. And I was saying to him, how can I get into Midlothian? He says, we're already doing it, Derek. We've got 200 DSs and 10 Nintendo Wiis. And we book them out to schools all over the place. And this was an email from one of the head teachers who has the consoles at the moment and is doing stuff. And she's talking about a child. They are highly motivated and focused, and they're getting on with their tasks when asked. This is the challenging class. This is a novelty with this class. Great stuff. So happening without us. And I don't want to become redundant, but if we can do that so people don't need a kind of national organisation leading it, and it becomes part of mainstream educational experiences, fantastic. Now, we are using games as diverse as these things, folks. This is just a small selection of stuff. Guitar Hero, just be great, Professor Layton, Phoenix Wright, all these things, as just a small example, to kind of permeate the curriculum and act as what we would call a contextual hub for learning. It becomes the centre for learning, for which all the kind of curricular activities kind of gravitate and spin. Let me show this, folks. We were at a school recently, and it was a probationer teacher was using Nintendogs and did all the stuff that's kind of established practice now with Nintendogs. But she looked at teaching her primary 2 children, 6, about art appreciation. And so they looked at this painting, Mad Dog by Saitaro Kuroda. They had a number of paintings, famous paintings about dogs, and the children had to try and replicate this example, this piece of art, using similar materials. And we've got, there's Alistair's, and look at this one, there's Caleb's, look, fantastic. Children completely engaged in the topic and learning to engage in a dialogue about art and about what it means to be an artist. If we help children at 2-year-old understand that they're an artist and they can express themselves in that way, they'll grow up believing that they've got the potential to create nice things. Mossy Monsters. Folks, Moshi Monsters is a virtual pet, like Nintendogs. You can adopt a monster online, and you've got to look after it, play lots. I was going to show you my monster, but I haven't played with it for weeks. And when I went to play it last night, it told me to take a hike. It wasn't happy with me at all, so I'll need to go in and play with him. I've got a blog post about this, folks, about my experience in Port of Menteith. It's on the Consularium's blog. Have a look at it. Moshi Monsters comes to Stirling. The Primary 2 teacher talking about how she's integrated this into her practice. The video assets aren't coming up yet, but all the stuff about writing, etc., is coming through, so you can have a look at that and follow up on that. So, what does Moshi Monsters do? It can be used to create context for writing. Here we are in Monstro City, where the monsters live. They've decided to open up a tourist information office. And there's one of the examples of this piece of functional writing that the children have got themselves involved with. Welcome to Monstro City, what you can see, what you can do. We've also got one of the houses for rent in Monstro City, and the children have had to, this is Primary 2, folks, the children have had to write a description of their house in Monstro City. And they are so, I mean, I've got a podcast I'm editing as well at the moment, but the children were just so alive with learning in that class. Here's another one, Monster House. It has an outside toilet. It costs 5,000 rocks, but it has a lovely fire. Okay? You can see lovely views and you can see the hills. I think I'd buy that. Moshi Monsters can be used to let creativity flow via animation. Look at this stop-motion animation, again by Primary 2. They've downloaded the screenshot from the web, cut out the Moshi Monster, and on they've gone.
I think I should go to the puzzle pal to earn some rocks. I think I should go to the port.
We can't underestimate what children can do. And writing and animation. Crazy talk again, folks. Fantastic. But look what they've done. They've turned their artwork into a monster and they brought it to life.
My name is Spike, and I'm very angry when you touch me because I'll spike you with my big claws.
Moshi Monsters can help children to engage with the design process. Look at these. They've made shops. They have to design their shops, decide what shop is missing from Monstro City, and make it. So there they are.
New shops, again leading on from.
And they designed flags for Monstro City, and they had to write a description of why their flag is designed that way.
And a concern about the fact that
real active, rich learning on show here in this classroom. And a classroom teacher, she didn't think she was doing anything special. And as she called herself, an ordinary, everyday classroom teacher. We need to believe in our teachers. Look what they can do. Just another step forward, folks, in terms of virtual worlds. We've been working on a project called Canvas. It stands for, it's rather tenuous, but Children's Art at the National Virtual Arena of Scotland. It's been made in open sim, and we host it ourselves, and it's the Glow community of Scotland's national intranet. This is what the canvas looks like at night, and the whole point of it is that we have a national virtual art gallery where children can exhibit their work, but then be in the world, as their avatar, standing beside their exhibition, and so I can go in, and all the other Glow community people can go in, and they can speak to the artist, stroke learner, about what they've done, what's been their journey, what materials have you used, what you're trying to convey, what art interests you, and we've got formative feedback. This is actually a wee video of the actual world itself. It's not fully posered up, folks, but we have an auditorium that seats 150 for webcasts and for guest speakers and presenters to come and talk. At the very bottom, we've got the major art gallery, which is going to be used to have collections and particular displays. We're having a Homecoming Scotland display for the Scottish Learning Festival in September. And you actually get to the rooms, folks. It's pretty cool. See the pipes pointing in the sky? They're the turbo lifts. So you go into the main gallery and you say, I want to go to see Dundee City Council's art. You press the Dundee button and it pings you straight to the Dundee. And so you've got all these people flying through the sky. It's going to be pretty bizarre. But that's the attempts that we're making to try and make sense of virtual worlds and how they can impact in a realistic and accessible way for very, very many teachers. Narrative and games, folks. We're really interested in how games can impact on writing and reading and imaginative literacy. Let's have a look at this video. Look. I'll make sense, I promise you. You know, one of the first Lumiere brothers movies. They just plunked the camera down and they're videoing these people leaving the factory. Now, they're doing it because they can. They've got the technology. The camera doesn't move. Now, nobody's thought of that idea. Let's take a different angled shot. Look at that. But just think about technology and think about the narrative of this. Now, I saw this graph in Australia recently. It's by a chap called Ted Hung, and he's kind of mapped technology versus narrative in terms of their importance over time. And he was arguing that, if you listen to people like Stephen Johnson talking about how TV programs, for example, like The Wire and The Sopranos, are so complex, and the real focus and detail, importance is on the narrative. But if you think about games, he was arguing that games are about there in terms of the focus is still on the technology and not so much on the underpinning narrative of the game. Now, I think they're correct in some ways. I'm really interested to look at some of the games, and we've tried it with Phoenix Wright, and I'll show you a quick example in a second. But we still feel that there's little real depth, demand, or challenge in the underlying narrative of some of these games that we hope to use to engage learners with reading and writing. Characters in games up until now have been kind of superficial, one-dimensional, lacking emotional diversity. Current kind of the emotions, it's like fear, surprise, anger. If you've played Manhunt, you know, fear and surprise and terror is one of these ones that I actually quite enjoy. But for the future, what else can we look at in terms of emotion? Love, sadness, jealousy, optimism again. We put Phoenix Wright into a secondary class, and this is one example of what the kids did. They did a character sketch. Just make sure the sound's on this one, folks. They're going to be to talk about Phoenix.
What kind of a person is Phoenix?
Can we put that up?
He starts off like quite unconfident because it's just his first case, but as the game goes on, he gets more and more confident, and then he's able to like perform better in the court. So he gets better every time.
Okay. I understand his adversary, his opponent in the court, is Miles Edgeworth. Is it Miles Edgeworth?
Yes.
What kind of a person? What kind of a person is he?
Do anything to get a result, to get the result that he wants.
It's quite broadly spoken. I can just tell. It just is everything that comes to his mind. Would just say. It's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. When you were up against him in the court, did you want to defeat him?
Yes.
He's that kind of person.
But Phoenix sometimes gets a bit exasperated by him because he thinks he's won the case, and then Miles Edgeworth comes along with something that destroys the whole thing.
They know Phoenix. They know Phoenix Wright. They've written about him. They've made their own characters up as well. We're looking at Hotel Dusk, folks. Can I maybe just switch to the Nitro? Is it on? Folks, just quickly, Hotel Dusk is a game I'm about to put this in an extended project in Perth High School. It's gone upside down, look. Folks, you'll get the feel for this. It's a narrative-driven noir mystery game. Let me put my audio up. Okay, here's Hotel Dusk. That's actually unfortunate. Didn't think it would do that, but never mind. Hotel Dusk. If you just turn your heads to the side, folks, you might get a good view. Okay, here we go, start. And you'll see the kind of cutscene animation that's in this to begin with. New York. This game, you need to read it and remember and engage with text to be successful at the game. But you just look at the setting here. You know, it sets the scene. It kind of reminds me of the noir detective stuff that you would get from Dashiell Hammett, etc. Here we go. What the hell, Bradley? And then you go, and there's a scene where somebody gets shot. And you're thinking, what on earth's going on here? Okay. Can we, don't move. So there's been a murder. The Taggart might have said. Folks, I think that's enough of Hotel Dusk, but we're about to put this into school. Now, can I introduce somebody to you? And please bear with me on this, right? This is the Shadow. Listen to him.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
Now, The Shadow was a big hit in the 30s and the 40s on the radio series. Now, iTunes is fantastic in terms of the things you can get for free. There's an old-time radio detective series that I subscribe to on the train to Glasgow and Dundee. I think they're fantastic. And The Shadow is somebody that's become a favourite of mine. And what we're doing is that we're actually starting this new project. We're using iPod Touch, and S2, S3 pupils are getting to play Hotel Dusk for homework. They're going to complete that for us. And we're using that as the context to develop a noir detective storyline. They're going to work to record this, to draft it, to dramatise it, but it's going to be released over 6 weeks. So they get an audience for their writing. The technology allows us to do that. They get an audience, and the audience can build up, and they've got real purpose for their writing to be worked on and honed and developed. And you can just think about what we can do to set things up for a community of practice to support each other. We're working with GarageBand. Some of the children are getting to do audio only. We're going to get some of the children to use things like Comic Life, etc., to create kind of video podcasts of their stories as well. Promoting interdisciplinary work in the secondary sector in relation to things like art and design, English language, ICTs, so departments are working together. And we hope then to introduce the pupils as well to the genre of the noir detective story, to see if that maybe will make them want to engage with that particular genre. So I'm really excited about this one, folks. We're also doing it for Professor Layton in the Curious Village. I saw a fantastic presentation yesterday by Steve Bunce from Northumberland.
You must be Professor Layton, I presume. It's an honour.
Look at the quality of the animation. It reminds me of Sylvain Chomet, who did Belleville Rendezvous. That's what caught my eye initially.
Why are we going to help solve an inheritance?
And so we're doing a similar thing here. We've got this in schools, a real focus on maths problem solving, but we've got another school, Clackmannan Primary School, that are going to be doing the podcast activity as well. I'll jump out of that. Building the community, almost at a finish, Graham. GLOW and the Scottish Learning Festival. There's GLOW, this is our national schools intranet that every pupil and every teacher in Scotland will have access to, and we can access them because it's web-based on learners. This is on the Sony PSP, just to show that we want to inhabit their world as well, their space. What we're doing, there's a chap from Dundee, Baldragon Academy, I've forgotten his name, sorry, and he won our Scottish Schools National Guitar Hero competition last year. He became the Scottish Schools champion. And what we did was, folks, I had in GLOW, it's logged me out. Let me just see. Log into GLOW. Sorry, Graham, it'll just be a second. What we did was, folks, we set up a GLOW groups are what we set up for people to collaborate and communicate and to work together. And if I go to my GLOW groups and I go to the Consularium, which is needing a bit of work, and I apologise for that for folks who get involved. I had a Scottish Learning Festival tab last year, and I set up, let me see now, telling people all about the games, and we had a leaderboard within GLOW and out with GLOW for the schools who weren't involved yet. And there's a leaderboard, look, and we ended up with quite a lot of people. There's 20 on the leaderboard. There were so many below that as well who didn't get on the leaderboard for their scores. They were playing When You Were Young by the Killers, and they had to get their score validated by the teacher, and she sent it in to me, and I put it on the leaderboard, and it became really, really hot. How can I get on that leaderboard? So Daisy. Now, we've also got Sonic and Mario at the Olympics. We had that there, folks. Similar thing we did, and we had them doing the trampolining. I didn't think that anybody would score a perfect 10, because I've never scored one. And I only wanted 8 children in the finals, 2 semi-finals of 4 and a final of 4. And 19 children scored a perfect 10. It was a disaster. And we had so many children involved in this, and they did heats and playoffs. But there we've got the Sonic and Mario champion as well. But the whole point of this is that the curricular work around this is then shared and built on in GLOW, and people can work together, and they can Maritech, video conference, and work with each other. We also have had a Dr. Kawashima competition on the LTS stand. Teachers and pupils would come along and do the ×20 challenge to see how fast they could do it. We had a leaderboard again, and at the end of the day we got the top 8 to come to the stage and to do the ×30 download challenge. And the person that finished first won 15 DSs for their school. And we've actually got one of the winners here, Vicky McKenzie from Laresland Primary School in Scotland. She won the second day. We did it on both days. And again, that was a great success, and I thoroughly enjoyed comparing it. This year, we've got Guitar Hero World Tour competitions, so we've extended the Guitar Hero idea, and we've got bands this time, so I'm really hoping some are going to turn up dressed like Kiss and Saxon, you know, to really kind of ham up the Spinal Tap effect. We're working on a Dragon's Den competition where children are going to pitch a games idea to a group of people from the games industry. And and I just want to show you two more things, and I'm finished. The Glow groups, folks. Unfortunately, I'm not getting into that one, so I shall just go back. Oops, daisy. I was trying to show you what Aberdeenshire Council have done with their Glow group. People were asking yesterday about the resources that was on display from Kim and from Vicky and from Anna, and just to show you how we're using Glow to kind of build up that kind of bank of ideas and resources and collaboration so teachers can work together. And finally, we've been working with the Winning Scotland Foundation and a games-based learning company called TPLD. They really came to us with the idea, and we've helped advise them about how to improve it. And my colleague Kim Applin is leading this. In this game, I think we can call it a serious game, but it's all about developing a growth mindset. You know, it's based on kind of Carol Dweck's principles, but it's particularly based on Yehuda Shinar's winning theory. He was the chap that worked with Clive Woodward when England won the World Cup in 2003. He was the motivational guru that kind of remembered the mantras about positive thinking and positivity. So this game is built around this winning theory, and we feel that there's avenues into the assessment is for learning agenda, and we're hoping that the game can help present yet another way in which learners can begin to develop a culture of kind of self-reflection and metacognition. So we're excited to see how this one moves forward. Now, to finish off really, folks, all that stuff's great, but at the heart of it is a good teacher. Good teachers use good resources to engage learners. And I think we need to trust them, because as you've seen from some of the presentations yesterday, and from my experience in Scotland, schools are packed with really good teachers who have just got bursting with ideas, idiosyncrasies that can really impact for the good and the benefit of their pupils. I've got 2 wee girls, and I'm very happy that my kids are at school. I don't think school's broken. I think that we can just continue to make it better. Finally, folks, why are teachers embracing games? We think they've got a low technology skills threshold, which allows them to get success. And when they get success, success builds self-confidence. And when they've got confidence with that, they don't need to worry about the technology. They can focus on the teaching and learning. But at the heart of it all, folks, is the positive impact it's having on the cognitive and effective development of school children. Thanks very much for your time.
Derek, as always, fantastic, inspiring. I'm sure everyone will agree. We're going to do some computer switchover at the moment before our next speaker takes the podium. So while we're doing that, we're going to take some questions. But first of all, I'd like to take a question because there's a whole bunch of things coming through on the Twitter feed. So if Andy, who's monitoring it there, wouldn't mind just pushing up one of the questions. Andy?
Yeah, I'll pick up
Hang on, take the microphone because we're recording.
I'll pick up play, Jen, you know who he is. It's not really a question. It's Derek. You're talking a lot about. You're not doing game-based learning, are you? Really, you're doing learning using games.
Is there a difference? I don't think there's a difference.
I've got a question. Trusting teachers. What's your view on that?
Well, I've just said there that I think that we need to trust teachers more. I mean, Curriculum for Excellence in Scotland has moved away from what 5 to 14 was, and 5 to 14 was well-intentioned in terms of making sure that we covered all the bases, that we were making sure that all the particular curricular areas were being addressed, etc. But in some ways, the creativity that can come from a teacher was inhibited, and we ended up with a prescriptive curriculum. Now with Curriculum for Excellence, we're handing back very much of the trust to Scottish teachers to say, go and how can you take this loose idea, this loose structure, how can you really take this forward and make the most of it to suit your purpose and to suit your particular context? So I'm very happy to trust teachers and we need to help inform them to take them forward as well. So continual evolution of how we use technologies and how we can use them in the classroom.
One more question.
You can't. You have one already. Next question. Sorry. Come on, it's fair, Andy. David at the back.
Hi, Derek. I'm meant to be pressing something. Oh, there we go. Cool. And experience these things. It's obviously very highly directional. David McCall, Sums Online. That was fantastic. I mean, the enthusiasm that you're generating all around the place is marvellous. You mentioned one thing during it that I wanted to ask really your views on. You mentioned platform agnostic would be where you'd like to be. Now, this stuff only really works in the long term if every kid gets access to their own device. And there's a sort of bigger wave going on in English schools, which is to do with learning platforms, web books, Nokia devices. In fact, a typical secondary school at the moment in England may have 100 Asus web books, 30 Nokias, 20 PSPs, 40 DSs. We really need, if we're going to have solutions for game-based things, to have platform-agnostic software. And at the moment, I would guess a lot of what you're offering or working on isn't that. Where do you see platforms going in terms of games-based learning?
I think they're still in the foothold. I mean, looking to the long term, David, I'm not entirely sure I can see that far. I think that what we're doing in Scotland, we're still in the foothills of what we're trying to do. And at this moment in time, we're using what we see to be the most appropriate resources at this particular time. But in terms of using those, how can we use those to impact and to the maximum effect on teaching and learning? And we were about to do stuff with iPod Touch. We're looking at Sony PSP as well. And the PS3 is a big thing, we're a way to put into schools also. So, and it's maybe moving away from what's been seen as the traditional ICTs that have been in schools for, well, forever, basically. But I still think there's a huge, huge place for those, without a doubt. But I think that this view of educational technologies that encompasses games, consoles, etc., is something we need to value and really put some serious thought into.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. There was a load of hands in the middle, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. So one more. We've got time for one more question. Sure. I'm just trying to spread it around. Okay, gentleman there.
Hi, Derek. Andrew Jimman from 24 Communications. I was quite excited about your Open Sim Second Life project. However, we do quite a lot of Second Life development ourselves, and I've been quite hesitant about using Open Sim because it is an open source platform. I found that there's been a severe lack of support for the platform because there isn't actually anyone solely responsible for the platform like there is for Second Life, for instance. My question is, how do you go about supporting people, one, using your project, and two, how do you then seek support for stuff that you don't necessarily know how to do?
Well, with the Second Life, we had some issues about safety and about giving the Glow database user material to a third party. We need to do that with Second Life. With Open Sim, we're trying to balance the kind of the pros and the cons with this. But the reason we went for Open Sim was that we could create this bespoke world that was completely ours and that we host it on our own servers. And I understand your point about it being open source, but we're working with a company called Second Places who have designed this for us, and they make bespoke worlds. They made Jimmy Carr's virtual world recently for his tour. So, listen, we hope this, and we fully anticipate this to be something that will grow and develop and won't kind of like die a death. And we're using Open Sim, open platform, open source, sorry. We're using other things with open source as well. And I think that community has some degree of, we have real degree of confidence in it as well, in terms of exploring their use and how we can take them forward to explore these kind of things. So, again, in the foothills of this, trying this out as our first foray into it, so we'll need to see how it goes.
Thank you very much, Derek. I wish you to join me in applause for a wonderful presentation.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
I'm not going to do long introductions because I'm trying to bring some of the schedule back. We will be going to lunch a little bit later than planned. but I'm sure you won't mind, because what you've got for the next 2 sessions is a real treat indeed.